Hey guys, and welcome back to another lesson. Today I'd like to talk to you about what's probably my favorite chord of all time, which is the 2 major chord. Now, for those of you who aren't fluent in theory, let me just give you a particular example. I'm going to play a C major scale. I'm going to play the 1-2 second degree. I'm going to build a major chord in it, which would be a D major. So I'm going to confine myself to the C major scale for the remainder of this video, and the chord I'm referring to in this context is the D major chord. And the reason I like it is also because of its particular character in this scale, and because, well, even more so, because its potential resolutions. And I'm going to show you 4 of them, which I all find extremely pleasing. Now, the first resolution is what I call sort of the weak resolution to the 4th, in which you have, let's say in this case, a 1, a C major, a 2 major, which is a D major, and a 4 major, which is an F major. And you've probably heard this in sort of like power ballads or stuff like that. I'm going to play it for you, and you're going to hear how it sounds. Now, in my opinion, an extremely pleasing resolution, and I also like the kind of tiny dissonance, the fact that, taking a chord that's not from the scale, sticking it in there, and then going back to the scale. In this particular voicing, note that I'm using also the added second for the F major, this D. The F major without just a regular F major triad would look like this, but I'm also adding this G, because what I'm aiming at is having this motion going from E top note to an F sharp top note to a G. I could use other voicings as well. For example, I could use a D9 voicing, which would sound like this. And I think this is also pleasing because if you'll notice, when my voicing in the right hand, I have this G going down to an F major, going down to an F. Sorry, going down to an F sharp, I should say, going down to an F. And you could even make it a little bit more pleasing, I think, or a little bit more interesting, if you use this in the bass as well. So I'm going to start from the root and then do like a big jump to an F sharp, then go down to an F. Let's try doing a G. And you could imagine something like C6, a D9, to an F major 7. Again, the bass makes it a lot more interesting. So that was the first progression I wanted to show you. The second progression is going to the 4 minor. So I'm going to switch the F major for an F minor in this case. So I have this C major to a D major to an F minor, and I'm just going to play it again for you. I could do, this was an F minor major 7th, I'm going to do an F minor 7th now. Sounds a bit different. Now, the third resolution, which I find very pleasing, is actually back to the root, which is kind of interesting because previously it looked like it kept going up, but we could also go back down. And this fits really well within ballads. I'm going to play something just so you can hear it in context. So I played the C major to an A minor, to an F major, to a D, well, dominant 7th in this case, and then back to the root, which is a C major, only on a bass of G, because I wanted to keep this bass formation going from an F to an F sharp to a G. So very important what you're doing in your left hand. And so again, a totally different resolution. It's interesting how the same chord can lead to so many different types of resolutions and, you know, just give you all these different sounds. So again, something for you to explore in writing your songs or chord progressions or whatever. The last and final resolution I've kept for last, well, obviously that's a tautology, but the point is that it's kind of the trickiest and also the most powerful. And also the most obvious, which is going from the D major to a G major, and then usually back to a C major. So it's really a 2-5-1, if you've ever come across this idea, but just with a major 2. Usually a 2-5-1 is with a minor 2. And you encounter it in jazz. But I actually find that this thing works better if you know what you're doing in the context of rock music. Now, you can make this sound extremely corny. For example, so C, let's say an F, D, G, back to a C. You know, it almost sounds comical, but then when you think about the band that actually put this to the best use, I think, which is Queen, things look a bit different. And two of their most famous songs that have this progression in them are Somebody to Love and We Are the Champions. So just to give you an example from Somebody to Love. So if you were paying attention, it was all over the place. And if you weren't, let's break it down really quickly. So here it is. D to G, back to C. Here it is, C to D, to G, and then back to C. Again. C, D, G. Here they actually stay. And then you have this descending pattern, which again is a different kind of progression with a D. A G, D7, G over bass of F, and an F. So it's almost like doing the weak, what I call the weak resolution, which is really my own terminology, where the D goes to an F. But just with this added tension in the middle, this G over bass of F. then so on and so on. Now, really, this is because this can sound a bit comical in the wrong hands. This is really difficult to pull off, and that's why I think there are so few songs that pull off this particular type of progression with the 2 major successfully. And by far, I think the best band to do this is Queen, and they have it littered all over their repertoire. I'd actually be interested in hearing from you if you know of any bands or songs that use this progression in their own songs. I think because it's, so basic, so kind of raw, unless you're kind of a big band with a big sound like Queen, trying to pull it off might end up sounding a bit comical. So you really need to have a big sound, kind of a glam rock sound, or like a stadium sound or whatever, to be able to pull this particular thing off. I think it's going to be much more difficult if you're like an electronica band, or you're doing like these ballads, to have this particular progression. But I'd really be interested in hearing from you guys if you know of any songs that actually do this 2-5-1 with a major 2. And by that I mean not jazz songs, I mean rock songs or pop songs. That's it. I hope I've convinced you to maybe take a look at this 2 major chord and incorporate it into your playing, and I've shown you 4 ways of doing this. And I hope that, at least one of them was kind of new and interesting for you. With that being said, I hope you've learned something interesting, and I'll see you next time.